a lot to love in that presentation, and I'll try to adapt my brief remarks, which always have to be written down in such a short talk, to try to be less redundant. So basically, it's what he said, right? We want to, the mission, and as the introductory remarks for the whole conference said, we want to improve long-term patient outcomes, and to get there through individualized, timely, adaptive delivery of care, both in and between clinical visits. And since I can't change all my remarks, or I could just sit down, think about what I'm trying to say is just thinking about it at a system level. I think CEBA's clearly done a really wonderful job of figuring out how to bring this to market now. And what I'm talking about is a bit more aspirational. I want to just mention a couple of other clinicians who have said things that have motivated me through the years on this slow journey. Atul Gawande, in an article in 2017, talked about the need to shift our focus to lifelong incremental care. The more we monitor the body and brain for future breakdown and correct the course, the greater healthcare's impact can be on lives and costs. And you'll hear more about that later in the session. Kurt Cole, I don't think he's here. If you've had a chance to meet him, he's the Chief Global Information Officer for Cornell University, former CIO of Weill Cornell Medicine. And the first time I met him at a small workshop in 2012, before I'd even joined the faculty, he talked about how if a person is taking more than one medication, there is no evidence base, because you need to account for their genome, their microbiome, their exposome, and their behavior, also as CEBA is trying to do. And finally, Hiroko Dodge, a geriatrician who I had the chance to work with briefly several years ago, made the point that differentiation increases with age. As babies, certainly we're different in our genetic makeup, even some exposure and such in the mother. But as we age, by the time we're 65, 70, so forth, we've so differentiated from that original thing, the medications we have, the conditions we've developed, the food we've eaten, and so forth. So this is an aspirational view of how we might hope our system operates. Hybrid longitudinal care. So with digitally enabled, relationship-based primary and specialty care, which has really become increasingly unaffordable and unobtainable to many patients and providers, as we just heard, and has also led to provider burnout for a range of reasons. So why might this be achievable? And again, thinking across the healthcare system, in addition to sort of business interventions at a time. And how might we achieve this maintaining that in-person contact for our in-person clinical visits, which are still needed in many contexts, so that we string the digital and weave the digital along with the in-person. So the point is to design for hybrid clinical encounters, both synchronous and asynchronous, both in-person when needed, and virtual of whichever medium, but still between the same human patients and human clinicians that are otherwise treating them. And the terms digital biomarkers, digital therapeutics, which have become the terms of art for trying to capture those digital interactions, need to look more like what the healthcare, how the healthcare does those blood labs that you send to Quest. They'd get prescribed and interpreted at clinically relevant intervals or events or event-based, and they get mediated to the clinician by the EHR. So you don't dump raw data, you don't bring your all the details of your AFib watch or your continuous glucose monitor. We have to develop the AI that interprets those data and puts the right thing in the EHR. Similarly, we need digital pharmacy, because just as clinicians don't hand you your medications, pharmacy is there to provision the wearables, the apps, and so forth. So the North Star that CEBA presented, how might we bring this to across the healthcare system? I'm a technologist. I think about tech stacks, if you will, and I think about them from the bottom up. So the tech stack that can make this happen, clearly leveraging existing consumer technology, wearables, some home-based for more continuous observability of initially established measures with a focus on chronic and recovery, and a lot of applications in the context of older adults where a lot of that disease and need for recovery is. In the middle, you have this point that patient-generated data must be AI native. You must have models that automatically ingest the relevant patient-generated data as well as the individual's EHR data and create these digital biomarkers that come through the EHR with the right temporal resolution, the right alerts about out-of-range triggers, according to the prescription that comes from the clinician as to what's needed. That might be sort of more basic machine learning and forms of Gen AI as that interface. And this is where, in that middle layer, is where there's the most clinical research and validation activity needed. And this is not something you just do once. You continue to do this as new types of devices come along and new understandings get developed. And at the top, you have that data contextualized with clear clinical purpose. Are you trying to get tighter control? Are you trying to do an early intervention? Are you trying to improve an outcome, reduce costs? And so that's where the digital therapeutics that deliver and augment some of the therapies and the treatments come along that are consumer-facing. The best progress that I've seen over these last 10 years is where sensing matches the measurement and that can really drive clinical action. So we've seen it in Parkinson's, we've seen it in cardiology, particularly arrhythmias, mental health, metabolic. And even though we've had those cases, it's still by no means how the system runs. So when I got started in this space as a technologist, I certainly expected revolution. These individually, digitally enabled care, this kind of digitally enabled care has been technically feasible and adoptable since 2010. We have basic supervised machine learning, consumer devices, and the reasons for not achieving it is not due to a lack of underlying technical capability, nor because of the physiology or clinical knowledge. It just needed time for evolution. This recent paper that I found talks about the limitations and barriers in the context of cardiac arrhythmias in particular, and I think it's an excellent summarization of the friction and the issues that are encountered to get to deployment. It's at every level, again, from the bottom up, from reimbursement, workflow overhead, clinician training, engaging consumers, and lack of validation and iterative improvement in the underlying approaches. I don't intend this as discouragement. You guys are not in this field because it's easy, but because as we approach deployment, we need to address and navigate these. And SIBA has done a great job, I think, in creating a business model that does just that. Some strategies to get there at more of a system level, 3 things that give me some renewed hope. One is to leverage virtual care. This approach can make virtual care and telehealth better. There's signal lacking between you as clinician and that patient when it's only digital interventions, and these signals enrich it. Second of all, a focus on creating and validating care pathways. So where there's a measurable benefit and a clear clinical action, clear patient or caregiver action, and fit the data to that action. So, and in doing that, again, we must make the data come through some kind of AI model. We can't do this by delivering raw data in a scalable fashion. And thirdly, while we're doing it care path at a time, we should use common modular infrastructure for efficient component development, avoid those tall, skinny silos that are otherwise created, and make it costly to go and apply that approach to the next condition, and make it more costly to keep the modules updated as the underlying sensing technologies and models actually develop. So we should simultaneously pursue integration into a care plan, integrating data into action, not just data for its own sake, and do it with modularity so you reduce cost, reuse components, and recycle the approach. That's how the internet was built, and that's how it's continued to evolve and adapt across applications for the last many decades.
Future of Care is New York City's premier community for healthcare innovation. To learn more, subscribe to our channel and visit our website at futureofcare.nyc.